So, hey, how are you? We have everybody here. I'm gonna click to go live at 7. Might be a little glitch on Facebook, but we are recording. So I'm gonna post this recording. So I just want to introduce everybody else. We've got Kevin Israel, comedian, Andrew Zwicker, a representative. He's my assemblyman in the state legislature in New Jersey. John Wisniewski, a good friend and former gubernatorial candidate, former assemblyman, former state party chair.
Can't hold the job.
A lot of formers.
Former heavyweight champion of the world.
We've got Scotti, who is a very funny comedian from America's Got Talent and from funny women of a certain age on Showtime. So looking forward to having a good conversation. I sent everybody a list of some of the stories that I thought, and I would imagine that, what might dominate here is coronavirus. I mean, that's sort of been the...
I didn't get that.
Yeah, no, I emailed that to you.
All right.
But, with a lot of links there. But we're going to get started in about a minute or so. Let me just see, and we'll see what happens.
Hey, Joey, where is this on Facebook?
It should be on my... it should be on the Facebook page group for Punchlines in Politics, but I might be having a problem with the streaming of this interconnected because StreamYard is getting an incredible number of shows like this that are coming on. So I've clicked a couple of times and I'm not sure if it's linked in yet, but I'm recording it and I will post it and kind of try to fix that glitch a little later on. But I'm trying to see. Let's just see.
Yeah, it's important because my wife didn't believe I was doing this, and so I got to be able to prove to her that I'm actually doing something.
I will send her the link. I will send Debbie the link, and I will verify it to the best of my ability. That's what I can do. But got about another 2 minutes. So one of the things that's interesting is I did this show, Andrew, I think everybody here did the show when I was doing it as a podcast a few years back. And I have to say I really enjoyed doing that, getting a group of people together who had a perspective on New Jersey that was certainly very different. One of the people who did the show back then, Phil Murphy, did do the show, and that was his launching pad to where he is today. So I could see that.
You think it's better for him?
Thanks a lot, Joey.
How sad. John ran for governor in a primary against Phil Murphy. Well, I think you were outspent about 11 million to 1. I think that was probably one of the advantages that certainly one of the advantages that Phil had. Well, I mean, the one thing I could say, and I guess let me actually launch this. We got about another minute or so until we get to 7, then we'll kind of kick.
How's my hair?
Your hair looks much better than mine.
You look lovely.
You look absolutely lovely.
Thank you. Okay.
Absolutely lovely. All right, we're at 7 o'clock. Hi, folks. Those of you who are watching at home, if we are on Facebook, I did interlink it. If not, I'm going to have to post this as a recording. But I want to welcome all of you to Punchlines in Politics. I'm Joey Novick, and I'll introduce you to our guest today. We've got two very funny comedians, two wonderful elected officials, politicians from the state of New Jersey. We've got Kevin Israel, who is the host of the podcast. Kevin, what's your podcast again?
Gutting the Sacred Cow.
Gutting the Sacred Cow with my good friend Kevin Goatee. We've got Assemblyman Andrew Zwicker, who also is with the Princeton Plasma Physics Lab, which I think is very interesting. We've got Julia Scotti, who is a comedian who's on Funny Women of a Certain Age.
Is this show over yet?
We got about another minute or so. And then John Wisniewski, who is former gubernatorial candidate, former state Democratic chair, and just an all-around great guy. So first question, how are you guys coping with the coronavirus lockdown? What's going on?
The masks,
we'll move on.
The masks are a problem. I mean, you wear it every day when you're out on the street, or you go into the supermarket. They're tough to breathe through, and then you're wearing the gloves and stuff. It's
you got to take them out of the package, there, John.
That's
about that. Yeah, it tasted like plastic. I wasn't sure why.
Well, can I answer next?
No, just go on. Just
I'm in a job that requires me to stand in front of large groups of people in nightclubs, so I haven't really worked in about a month and a half. I'm totally broke, but other than that, I'm having a wonderful time during the pandemic plague of biblical proportions.
Yeah,
thank you.
It's we've spoken about this, and just what is I just want to throw it out to Andrew. You are, of all of the people here, you are one of the people who are making policy here regarding this.
And the New Jersey General Assembly, after John would have loved it, for the first time in New Jersey's history, we passed a series of pieces of legislation remotely. First time we didn't have people inside the State House.
Wow.
It took quite a bit, but other states are looking at what we've done and how to emulate that. So we're going to keep on doing the business of the people, even if we have to do it from our home.
Are we luckier than most to have Phil Murphy as governor? I mean, I kind of see what's going on in some other states, that they've opened up the beaches in Georgia, and you can go for a haircut and go to a nail salon. I'm just wondering, that's kind of scary.
Look, it's a tough job for Governor Murphy, because there's not a decision that he can make that's not going to have somebody saying too much, not enough, too soon, not soon enough.
Right.
And it's proverbially, he's in that situation where you're damned if you do and damned if you don't.
He's also, I was going to say, he's made very clear. Sorry, Kim. I was going to say very quickly. He's made clear he's going to allow the data, the health experts to guide his decisions. And we've seen polling, and that's what people are counting on, is that in the end, it really is about the health and safety of each of us.
Yeah, I think I've spoken to a lot of people on both sides of the aisle, and he's getting a lot of positive praise for the way he's handling it. It's a horrible situation to really have to balance. And I think what he's doing right, and what Cuomo is doing right, is they're just providing as much information to people as possible and explaining why it is the way it is. And you can't argue with facts and with science. And I think that's
and you got to make those life and death tattoo decisions every day. Do I get the tattoo? Do I open the tattoo parlors? There's always that emergency tattoo that you have to
open
get.
Tattoo parlors yet, so he's distinguishing himself compared to the governor of Georgia.
Right.
Yeah.
I was before all of this started, I was down in Atlanta for a wedding in my family, and I was there. It hadn't gotten that crazy yet, and people were still hugging. There were quite a few people who did not come to the wedding because they did not want to fly. I drove down, but people were hugging. We were shaking hands. It just seems.
Nobody was hugging you. Let's be honest.
I'm sorry. What?
Nobody was hugging you.
No one was hugging me. They were like, going. But it seemed more normal. Just attack. I don't mind that. Attack the host as much as you can. I don't mind. It's
no, he wishes.
Well, who's the host?
People were hugging him.
You just walk around. Why isn't anybody? I'll hug somebody.
Yeah, we're just blaming me. But I mean, do you think, when will things appear to return to normal? Is there a certain New Jersey normal, or people are going to go, bonkers if this goes on for another? I mean, if this goes on for the entire summer, I would imagine that would be really just absolutely crazy.
Well, what passes for normal in New Jersey is certainly not accepted as normal anywhere else in the country. I mean, we are our own unique entity when it comes to politics and everything else. But look, my own 2 cents on it is that I think within the next month, Governor Murphy will start to gradually look at data and start to ease things. But let me ask you this question: knowing what we all know, and we've read and heard about the coronavirus and how it may come back and how people can transmit it without having any obvious signs of infection, how eager are we to go sit in a crowded theater in June or July? How eager are we to sit in a packed restaurant in July or August? I think that for perhaps the next several months, maybe 6 months, there's going to be a change in the way people just view normal interactions, because they're still going to be wondering, will I get something? Will this, take me out of work for 3 weeks? Will it potentially take my life? And people will be worried.
So you think that this is still going to go on, even if the governor announced tomorrow that we flatten the curve, people will still be very fearful of going out?
Yeah, I think the governor can make the science-based announcement, but he can't get concern and worry out of people's heads. And, I think there's a lot of that. There's a lot of people who are, genuinely concerned, especially because there's been such nonsense on a national level about, what's real, what's not real, what can you do, what you can't. I think people will be genuinely concerned, and it will take time to get back to, I went to an event down in Hamilton in early February, and there was nothing prohibiting anybody from shaking hands, hugging, meeting people, and then literally within weeks after that, the world stopped, and we won't get back to where it was for a while.
Wow.
I think I was going to quickly say, we see the unemployment numbers, which are staggering, just staggering. And so we're going to have to be creative. To John's point right now, I mean, a packed restaurant may not be possible, but can we spread the tables apart? Can we have any sort of event where we still can do social distancing? What are we going to do about the parks as the weather turns nice over the next week? So we're going to have to be very creative and figure out how we can do this safely.
Yeah, in comedy, I mean, a friend of ours, Gary Delano, who's going to be on the show in a few weeks, he was a cruise ship act. He would do, I don't know, Julia would do 30, 40, 50. Well, you find that funny. But he was a cruise ship. He would do cruise ships 30, 40 weeks a year. And he lost half his year of work. He just, going down from zero, going down from his salary to zero. And Julius, and Kevin know that you've lost all your stand-up work.
Yeah, it's been horrible. I lost everything from April. We had the special airing on Showtime.
Yeah.
We had all this workbook ahead, to capitalize on it. And gone. I spoke to my manager today. May is gone.
Yeah. What Julia is referring to is Julia was one of the stars on a special on Showtime called Funny Women of a Certain Age, and they had several theaters that they were doing around the country. And before the coronavirus, those theater gigs were very lucrative for her. And coming to the length of time that she's been doing stand-up, and having this notoriety, especially at that age, all these women, just completely gone, just like that. I don't know how quickly that'll be coming back. Now, somebody like me, as a stand-up comedian who never really had a full schedule anyway,
or a full head of hair.
This is all full head of hair. This was not an issue for me. Seeing and it was kind of like working for Roger Paul. I know you'll enjoy that.
They don't have any idea who.
They have no idea what I'm talking about.
No, but Joey. Given Joey's career, he's well experienced with social distancing. Just looking at
yes, he is. Right. Wow, Joey, even outside of show business, people know you. That's amazing.
Well, it's I have that reputation. Well, I was walking in Hunter. I was taking an exercise walk, and
really?
In the street. Yes, I was. Believe it or not, taking an exercise walk. And
what did you go about 10 feet?
I have video of that. No,
this is turning into a roast. I love it.
Yeah, there you go. and people were staying 10 feet apart from one another. I was thinking, oh my God, it's just like campaigning as a Democrat in my county. So
yeah. In other words, it was Monday.
It was just another Monday.
Another Joey Monday.
But to move on to a better subject of this, the hospital workers, the frontline workers, even going, I'm assuming all of you have done some sort of shopping for food, and you go there and there are people there who are working there every single day, putting their own lives at risk. And these are not very highly paid people at all. I mean, we have people who are, putting out fruit with gloves and they're on a regular basis. So I have to give, credit to those folks.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they, even though with all the precautions they're taking now, they have the sneeze guard up in front of the cashier and everything. My daughter works at a supermarket.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she perfect timing too. But she just moved back here from California, and I worry about her. There's disgusting people out there.
And the other thing that gets me, and I don't get it all, are these folks who are just denying that this is any different than a regular flu, and that any action that we're taking is sort of overly zealous response to all of this. I mean,
who would be doing that? Who?
I don't get that. I mean, Kevin, you're reading.
There's always going to be idiots on any side of an issue, and there's always going to be the people that think they know better. And this is obviously, the minute you cross a social crisis with an economic crisis, you're going to divide into two groups of people. And in this situation, we see people who are, and look, people are, jokes aside, people are rightfully scared. A lot of people, Julie and I both lost. I lost 35 gigs in the matter of a week.
Wow.
And it's, it hurts. And there's people out there really suffering, but you also have to say, for the greater good, number one, and do I want to take the risk? Do I want to go out there and take the risk? And the answer should be no. Like we're going to find a way through this. We're gonna get out on the other end, and then we're gonna have to rebuild, and it's gonna take a little while, but it's the right thing to do for us, for everyone else.
But that's what's so infuriating about these people in California on the beaches, these people in Georgia. You got to get your hair cut. I mean, look at me. I need a haircut, but I'm willing to forego it, for the good of the population. It's stunning.
Andrew doesn't need a haircut. He's looking good. I want to know what he's doing.
I don't know what you do look good, Andrea. You're cutting your hair, or
it's just my wife cutting my hair.
Okay.
That's all it is right now.
I just
throw in that there is really something bigger going on when the president of the United States suggests the ingestion of poison, and the number of calls into hotlines goes up. There's fear. There is, everyone is so concerned about their safety, but there's also just been this continual attack on science and facts and the press, this systemic takedown of so many things that are just the foundation of free thought and democracy. And to me, that's what we're seeing right now on top of this, is an economic crisis, a health crisis, and a systemic attack on facts.
But along those lines, Andrew, I mean, if you think about what we've watched, take President Trump out of it, but his advisors, right? You've got Dr. Fauci, who's doing a good job, and Dr. Birx, but there are occasions during the press briefings where they have had to basically not tell the truth. Right. They've had to pull their punches. There are things that are said that, if you were on that stage, Andrew, somebody asked you a question, you would say, wait a minute, that's just outright false. And you have to be concerned about the co-opting of the scientists that are in that room with the president, where he's saying demonstrably false and dangerous things, and they're not calling him out. Why is that?
Can I answer that? My feeling is that they're afraid to, they want to stay in the loop, they want to stay in front of the public eye, and they know that if they stand up to this president, that they'll never be seen on television again.
But maybe that's okay. Maybe that's the price that needs to be. I mean, if you really believe what he's doing is wrong, then you go to the microphone and say, look, I can't participate in what's going on here because this is wrong and people are going to get hurt.
One of the things that bothers me about this is watching some of, and again, not, getting political here, some of the representatives in Congress, some of the senators who are on the Republican side of the aisle, who should have the moral standing to say, have you no shame? Have that moment where they actually call out their own president of their own party, because he's certainly not listening to the press. He's not listening to the public. And I mean, I do think that the strength of our democracy, like Andrew's saying, I mean, there's a crisis here, not only economically, but also politically. I mean, there are people actually questioning, are we going to have an election in November? Is he just going to, I mean, New York State just canceled their primary, which is, I mean, I guess there's presumptive Joe Biden will be the candidate.
How do you do that, by the way? I mean, I've been I've admired what Governor Cuomo has been able to do, and our own Governor Murphy, but how do you cancel a primary? That's set by statute. I mean, Andrew, in New Jersey or in New York, I mean, the legislature's got to weigh in and say, we're going to change the law.
Yeah, I can't answer to what the law is in New York, but certainly, as John, as you're saying, that's absolutely true. In New Jersey here, we couldn't do that unless the legislature passed a piece of legislation to do just that. And, there's been discussion, and I don't want to take us completely off topic, but we saw what happened in Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. And we can't let that happen in New Jersey. There's, what the New York governor has done, and I also want to say that he has been remarkable. So I want to put that up first. But nowhere, at least that I saw, was discussion of how we could vote by mail effectively and what we need to do. That's what we need to do in New Jersey. So why they made the decision in New York, I don't know. But we can have a primary from the president on down, do it by mail, do it safely, and do it in a way that allows us to increase voter turnout. So I'm not sure what happened in New York, but that's what we have to do in New Jersey.
Kevin here wears two hats, basically. Like myself, he's involved in politics. He has been Kevin, you were the chief of staff of Holly. I think I'm trying to remember.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so you have actually seen both. I mean, on this issue, you've seen both sides of this from the Republican side, and I'm just wondering, do you have any expectation that there should be a Republican senator standing up to Trump on these issues, like a Susan Collins or like a, anybody of that party?
You've painted me into a corner, Joey.
Oh, sorry.
Look, I mean, honestly, and this is not a popular opinion amongst my friends who are on the Republican side, I really feel like the Republican Party is dying a slow, gruesome death. I think from here on in, for the foreseeable future, it's going to be the party of Trump. He's going to be a kingmaker for a long time, and people are just falling in line with him, and it's scary to me. I always considered myself a moderate Republican. Pretty in the middle on most things. Mm-hmm. And he's forcing people into positions that they would never otherwise take. And it's scary. I genuinely believe you need both sides. You need people, you need that debate. You need disagreement, because out of that is where you move forward. And it's not anymore. It's just people throwing insults, and it's really become, it's very disappointing to see what's happened in the public forum.
Yeah.
Especially on the Republican side. So for me, I would like somebody, like a Mitt Romney, to stand up and say, this is enough's enough. This is ridiculous. Right. But we know it's not going to happen. Because people are scared. People are scared for their seats. They're scared for the funding they're not going to get to their campaigns. Especially in the Senate and in Congress, they've been there for so long that they're just like institutionalized. It's a form of institutionalization in Congress, and they just feel that they have to toe the line, and it's disappointing.
I mean, Romney stood up to Trump, and recently Trump got together all of the members of the Senate, I believe, for some sort of briefing, and Romney was not invited to that. So I guess that's the kind of thing you're talking about. It is very scary.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it is.
What's stopping them from at least forming a coalition of some sorts to take back the power? If they banded together and stood up to this guy, 35 Congress people, 40, 50, whatever, can't all be wrong.
Yeah,
but it's part of the problem on a bipartisan basis in politics today, in which there's a conscious trade-off to, the old phrase, I want to have a seat at the table, or I want to be in the room where it happens, to, paraphrase Hamilton. And people want to be in that room or at that table, and they make conscious decisions. Yeah, the guy's an idiot, but I can't be in the room if I don't go along with that idiocy. Or
but there's the answer to your question about Fauci and Birx, why they don't just stand up and tell them to go,
But I think also, and I can't know what's in either of their minds, but I think Fauci in particular has been doing everything he can to be a voice of measured reason. He's not a politician, and there is a difference. His job is to give the facts. It's up to the people and the politicians to interpret that. So, I mean, no one's perfect. He's not perfect, obviously, but thank goodness for him. And thank goodness that he has been that voice that's consistently said, here's what the facts are.
But Andrew, I'm going to disagree with you to a certain degree. I mean, he's certainly better than most, but the problem is that when he disagrees with the president, he talks in really deep nuance that only, a PhD is going to be able to pick up. Most people listening to this are listening kind of half paying attention. Their lives are busy. They're listening to this. And if Dr. Fauci's not saying, no, that's wrong, no, that's really a crazy idea, people will hear his appearing to acquiesce to some crazy notion and say, well, Fauci didn't say he was wrong. And even in fact, when he was on, I forget what major news program, and they asked him about the time he put his face into his hand or raised his hand up to his face when Trump was saying, and he kind of walked it back a little bit, and it was interpreted as, well, he didn't want to get fired. Well, okay, but you can't allow misinformation to be out there at the price of having, being in the room where it happens.
John, I mean, we go back and forth on all this. I think there's two quick responses I have. One is, it is a rare occasion to have a scientist who can also be an effective public policy communicator. And again, I'm not trying to say that he is in any way, shape, or form perfect about it. But that's one thing. And the other thing is, I think the reason why you're expressing disappointment, at least in my opinion, is because there's this vacuum of anywhere else to turn. And so we're counting on the scientist to be that voice of explaining everything. And that is the job of the elected official. But again, right, I'm not saying he's perfect, but we need him to do so much more than he signed up to do because of what we just talked about before.
You're right.
Nobody else is doing it.
Yeah, I'm when Trump had asked the questions about the UV rays and about infecting internally, and I think he does everything on the fly. I think he did his debates on the fly. I'm sorry, what?
I 100% agree with you.
I think he did the debates on the fly. I think he like one day woke up and said, "Oh, I'm going to run for president," and he did that on the fly. And I think he does. But when there's a national crisis and he's having a conversation with experts and saying, well, you can put UV rays internally and you could have some sort of disinfectant internally. And then, he comes back a day or 2 days later and says, well, I was being sarcastic. It really makes me concerned about his mental capacity to be.
Those are the actions of a child.
Yes.
A child would do that.
I mean,
I was watching him today, and you're right. He speaks off the cuff, and even when he's reading a prepared statement, he'll be saying a couple of lines, and then suddenly he'll say something, and be like, "And I think that's the greatest in the world. We're the greatest in the world."
It's like no one's ever seen before. No one's ever seen it before. Yeah.
I mean, you think to yourself, well, Harry Truman is making a decision about dropping atomic bombs on Japan. He goes, hey, instead of 1, let's do 2. Let's do 4. Hey, I was just kidding. I was being sarcastic.
I guess I have one question. Are we tired of winning yet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to say, in relation to the whole the UV and the I don't think he was actually suggesting that. I don't think in his mind he said, people should go do this. But I don't think he's self-aware enough to say, oh, I said this, and there could be repercussions.
Right.
And I probably shouldn't. I should measure my words and consider what it is I'm saying. He heard the presentation, and like a 19-year-old, he got up in there and was like, it'd be cool if we could inject it. Try that. We should try that. And all those people were like, oh, yeah, we're going to try that. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, when I think of some of the greater communicators who were president, you get, Ronald Reagan. I don't agree with his policy, but he was very well prepared and he would, speak. We have John F. Kennedy. We have Bill Clinton, Barack Obama. And, here's a guy who his approval rating in the Republican Party is amazing. Like 75% of those who are Republicans are likely to go out and vote for him. So, crazy. But let me ask, we have a scientist here. So, Andrew, you're the scientist. Can we inject disinfectant into our body without any problem? And if we try that with the UV rays, what do you think?
I think it's a bad idea. It guarantees that you won't have to worry about coronavirus after you're done.
Wow.
How about gargling it? Can we gargle it with it, or?
I would suggest that you don't, Julia, but
So what you're saying is it will lower your temperature, though.
Oh, it probably lower your temperature.
That it
to
will
room temperature. Whatever.
So,
room.
I wanted
it happens to be the IQ of the president as well. So.
Oh, God, just absolutely. And so we're all at home. I'm probably on social media way too much. What was
Sorry, that was phone.
Was that was you're just eating?
It's just a fire alarm in my office, but I'll just wait.
Well, you're okay.
You got the light, Joey. That's what that was.
There you go. But whenever I was on stage, I was always they'd say, "Can I get the light at 5?" They would always give me light at 5 minutes into my act. So that was that's what was going on. But to change the subject a bit, we're talking about these people who go out every day and are working at the hospitals. I happen to be. I think I'm luckier than most in the fact that I'm in a home. I have a steady stream of income. I'm also in an age range where I'm the most, vulnerable to the illness. But we also have a hospital that's within a mile of my home, the Hunter Medical Center. And I think that I've passed by there a few times going shopping, and they have tents outside where they're doing drive-up testing. So I think where we are is luckier than most in a very densely populated state. I mean, New York, there's 50,000 deaths or more in the country. New York, has something like a third or 25% of those right now? It just is crazy.
I mean, New York, I think, has something like 20% of the world's deaths.
Wow.
I mean, it's just, and look, I thought Governor Cuomo made an excellent point, and it applies in New Jersey, by the way.
Right.
But, when you have one of the world's busiest international airports and people are flying into JFK from all points around the globe, especially Europe. I mean, huge hub for European traffic. Anybody who was in Europe who happened to come into contact with somebody who came from someplace else brought that to the New York area and also to New Jersey area. And they got off their planes, they came home, they went to the supermarket, they went to their office, not being aware that they had contracted coronavirus. And they gave this to everybody around them. And that's why, suddenly you saw this huge spike. And in New York City in particular, it's densely populated. You have a lot of people there from overseas because it is, an international financial capital.
Right.
It's just that's the consequence of the global economy that we have. And people travel all over the world, and something that happens in Asia makes its way to North America relatively quickly.
Now, statistically, if you look back at the last time there was a worldwide pandemic, the Spanish flu, the population at that time was 1.5 billion people, and about a third of the world at one point in time or another were impacted by the Spanish flu. I mean, that just, again, boggles my mind. 500 million people. I'm sorry, Andrew, you're going to say something.
I'm going to say, I think it was in the Wall Street Journal. People are forgetting. I mean, that's what everyone talks about is the Spanish flu. People are forgetting in the 1960s there was a Hong Kong flu,
right?
And it was worldwide. There were pictures of office workers in the United States with masks on, but not necessarily social distancing. And it came back in the fall and winter with a vengeance. And that is the troubling thing here, is that we've got to figure out how we're going to start to restart the economy, how to put Kevin and Julia back to work. Alongside
that bill.
All right. I'm working on it. But how do we do that so that, and I think John talked about this, restaurants and theaters and grocery stores and everything else, how do we do that so it doesn't come back and, from a flat curve that we talk about, pick up again?
I think, Andrew, that's an excellent point. And I think this is where, the world will change in subtle ways that we don't yet anticipate. But, I think some of us are old enough to remember when you bought a bottle of Tylenol at one point in the store, there was no shrink wrap seal around the cap, because who would do something like tamper with a drug until it got tampered with? And now Tylenol, Advil, all of these things have shrink wraps. Now I see ads on TV. You can have your pizza delivered and the pizza box is sealed so that you can know that nobody's touched it on the way over. And so there's going to be this entire small part of the economy generated with assuring people that there has been every effort taken to make sure that they can't run into an accidental infection. So, when you go into restaurants now, will they hire somebody? Will there be a new staff member whose job it is to go with a bottle of disinfectant and wipe down surfaces so that the customers see that somebody's doing that?
I have been shopping. Rosie is not able to walk very well. She actually had to cancel scheduled knee surgery. So she was going to have a knee replacement, which has now been thrown into the future. So I've been going out and I do shopping at Stop and Shop at 7 a.m. because they have like a senior time period. So I use my fake ID and I shop for over 55. And then I go right after that, I go to Costco. Now, Costco has everything set up almost in this very militaristic fashion. You walk in one entrance, they actually have somebody wiping down the cart that is being handed to you, which is incredible. They have markings all over the store to tell you what is 6 feet away. And then when you check out, where you used to have to put your own bags and your own groceries, they actually have people putting, that's the best part, is I no longer have to pack my own groceries at Costco, but they have plastic around everything, big plastic panels. And I definitely miss the free food. I mean, I love the free food. I love the $1.50 hot dogs which I miss. I know Kevin does a bit about that, but I have to say Costco has really done phenomenally well. I think the best out of all of the places that I have. So I haven't been out seen too many other places other than that.
Does this seem familiar to you? It sort of reminds me a little bit of when the AIDS crisis hit,
right
back in the 80s, and nobody knew how it was contracted, and literally people were not touching each other. They just it's kind of like that. I think once it peaks, the fear peaks. It will, just like the virus, it will level off, and eventually we will get back to normal. But you're right; it's going to take at least a year. I think.
I do agree.
I think what John said too, Julia, is that what is normal, all kidding aside about Jersey normal, will change, and in the same way that it used to be, seeing someone with a mask on the street was, we would pause, and now. It's the other way around. If you don't, they won't let you in, right? So it's going to change what is
absolutely.
Well, it changed after 9/11. It changed with the AIDS crisis. Every time we face one of these things, something is, changed forever in this country.
I go to. I'm sorry, John. Go ahead.
No, I was.
Oh, I was saying.
Wrapped attention about what you were going to say.
He's not used to that, John.
I could see the thought bubbles coming out of your head.
I'm not used to anyone having rapt attention. So unless I'm paying them. So I agree thoroughly with what Andrew is saying. The first time I went out and we heard about this was when I was traveling to Atlanta, and I saw a couple of people at rest areas wearing face masks, and I laughed. I mean, I thought, wow, these are the people who were nut jobs. And now I've become one of those people. I go and I'm wearing gloves. I'm wearing a face mask. I've seen people wear very creative face masks. I mean, that's where there are people who are making creative face masks. I saw one. I wish I got my phone out fast enough. Someone actually had a MAGA face mask. They had a make America
That's kind
great
of
again.
a contradiction, isn't it?
But I thought so too.
So I hear that
really go back to shaking hands.
Speaker Coughlin was saying that when the assembly does it back in session, they're going to be practicing social distancing and safe voting. And so instead of using the electronic tote board, members will now be given face masks, one that says I, one that says no.
Change, John. That's funny. That is you change your face mask. That is very good. That is very good.
One for abstain too. So
no, I appreciate that. It's interesting in getting together. Two people from politics, two people from comedy. John and Andrew. Talking about that seat at the table. For years have administered policy in so many areas of New Jersey, and very different backgrounds. Andrew, as I mentioned, is an educator, and he's with, as Rush Holt was, the Princeton Plasma Physics Lab. John was the chair of the Assembly Department of Transportation Commission, I guess, the Transportation Committee. I'm sorry, John.
The Transportation Committee.
Yeah, Transportation Committee. And so different in their approach. But I'm just wondering, is there anything that's going on in New Jersey that we should be paying attention to right now that we're not, because every available brain cell is being just sucked up by the coronavirus in Trenton? I mean, that seems to be where all the policy is being made right now.
I think that we ought to pay very close attention to all of the small businesses that we have come to accept, almost as a matter of course, that unfortunately won't be with us when we get back to whatever is normal. I mean, I was talking to a business leader in South Amboy, one of the towns that I had represented when I was in the legislature, and he was talking about all of the shop owners, the small business owners on Broadway, and they had all applied for the Paycheck protection program, and none of them had gotten it, which
Wow.
means that, you know, the pizzeria and the diner and the gift shop and all of those aren't able to keep their staff on. You know, at a certain point in time, they can't pay the rent. And, you know, notwithstanding, I understand what the governor tried to do in terms of residential, but for commercial leases, you know, those landlords are going to have to make decisions. And there's going to be a lot of changes from things that we've come to accept. You know, the nice little hardware store that's been very convenient. Will they survive? Hard to say.
There's been 800,000 plus unemployment claims just in New Jersey in the last weeks. To John's point, it's just devastating. And what that new normal is, how we help small businesses, is going to be utterly crucial. I completely agree with everything John is saying.
Yeah, and I don't know what you know, the world of comedy and performance will look like even a year from now, because you know, even if we flatten the curve, as John mentioned earlier, will people feel safe going out to a comedy club? Will people feel safe going out to a movie theater and sitting near someone? You know, that's a very big question. Rosie and I go out to the movies sometimes twice a week. I love going out to a movie. I love going out to a movie more than I like sitting at home watching the movie on TV. Why? Because I love the idea of going out, sitting with popcorn, sitting with a Coke, and just watching a movie with, you know, 100 other people. That, you know, that will definitely change. And I'm very concerned about that in the business. I mean, comedy had an explosion for the past. I mean, Julia and Kevin both know that. I mean, my God, there were so many comedians, so many comedy clubs, and I think that that's going to be impacted as all these other small businesses, Andrew said.
For a time. For a time. I think I have to disagree with you. I think initially when it opens, yes, people are going to be hesitant. You know.
No, I'm hopeful. No, I agree with you there. I am hopeful that it's a very short period of time, because after things get open, I think you're going to see people who will want to get out as much as possible.
Yeah, right. Right now it's Schrodinger's Comedy Club.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There are online.
I think less than even less than the fear. I think it's going to be a financial issue. I think going to comedy clubs, going to entertainment, that's the first thing that people knock off their list when the money gets tight. And the economy is going to be in a tough situation when we come back from this. And people, you know, there's a lot of people on unemployment. There's going to be a lot of people that don't have that expendable cash just to throw away that might have otherwise gone to a comedy club. So more than people being worried about getting sick, I'm worried about people just not having the finances to do it.
Right.
We just had that conversation today with my manager and I, because we think what's going to happen is they're going to have to space these people in a club initially.
Oh, so you have smaller crowds.
So you'll have less people. So, you know, your money's going to go down, as if it could go down any lower to begin with. But yeah.
Which is good for comedians like me that have no draw. So I will draw the fewer
For you, it's
people.
just Friday night. Yeah.
There you go. For me, it's just,
we have 3 comedians on the program now. So comedy is supposed to be a little edgy, supposed to make you feel like a little uncomfortable, and that's kind of what makes you laugh. So when do the coronavirus jokes start?
Immediately.
Yeah. We're doing them now online.
Do you joke about like a body count? Do you joke about
No.
How does this work?
Come on, John. Really?
How do you use coronavirus in comedy?
It's going to be about everything we went through, all the stuff in common, living at home, not changing our clothes, not getting haircuts, our families having to deal with our spouses. It's going to be the shared experience. I mean, there's always going to be an edgy comic who's going to talk about something, and you're going to say, I don't know if that's, and somebody will think it's funny. But I think in general, for a comic to get on stage the day the shutdown ends and we get back on stage, for a comic to get on stage and just say, I'm going to do my act that I did 7 months ago.
Right, yeah.
He's not even going to acknowledge the 800-pound gorilla in the room. We're not going to talk.
I
want to go, you were dealing with it too. You didn't get a haircut for months. You didn't, You didn't get to see anybody. We got to talk about it.
John Wisniewski and I are working with an author, Brian Morai. Brian wrote a play called Christie, all about Bridgegate. Okay, so he has written a wonderfully funny, dark comedy about Bridgegate. And John, I'm going to forward. I don't know if he sent this to you. He just wrote a 3-page, very brief beginning of a play about the coronavirus. It takes place in a bar, 3 people just chatting about it, and it's very funny. I mean, he's hit all the right moments. So I think there will be some creativity around that. I mean, I see a lot of people on Facebook, some of my favorite comedians writing some great lines about the coronavirus. The idea, Maureen Langan who's a good friend and a stand-up comedian, was talking about how for the first time she actually has to color her hair herself. And she's never had to do that before, and was asking for help on what way she would do that. And then there was a conversation. I thought it was actually very funny, just as a conversation amongst women talking about this.
Well, we are comedians. We are reporters. That's what we do. We just we're no different than the newspaper reporter, other than that we do it with humor. But everything is on the table.
Tucker Carlson, but
Tucker Carlson doesn't mean to be funny. He's just an idiot.
When I was doing this show before, and I was doing it on as a podcast and on the radio, one of the things that I really enjoyed was that dichotomy between the politics and comedy, where comedians are, by virtue of what they do for a living, they're constantly commenting on what is going on in the world. And you, assemblymen, senators, the president, well, not this president, but generally will work on solving those problems as best as they can, and putting all of you in the same room. It's kind of, I kind of look at this as like, HBO, Bill Maher will bring on a number of different people. He's got a senator, he's got an assemblyman, he's got a writer, a comedian, just kind of, chatting about stuff. I'm just wondering if you think after this, in what way do you think, just going around the room, this will impact the November election? I mean, if you had to pick like 3 ways you think this will impact the November election.
Well, I think it's going to impact the election because there's going to be a group of people who are now going to have their eyes open and say, you know what, facts matter.
Right.
Preparation matters. Reality matters. And when you're not prepared and you don't deal with reality, this is what you get.
Mm-hmm. Very true.
I think, look, Trump lost the popular vote by 3 million plus votes, won the Electoral College by going after certain states. I agree with what John said. I think, and also, Kevin, you alluded to this before, this is not the Republican Party of history, whether it is in the future to be determined, but I think it has an enormous impact on November. And it's also going to change, I think, public policy and that debate over the size of government, the role of government, deficits, all these various things that we used to have spirited debates over. Mm-hmm. I'm optimistically hopeful that we will again, and that out of this will come some very thoughtful public policies around science, but around healthcare, around small businesses, so many different things that we've just sort of, because of the partisanship in Washington, allowed to erode.
I wish I could be that optimistic.
Right before this all hit, I would tell everybody that I was sure Trump was going to win a second term, because I thought he built up his support base was so strong, and nationally the Democrat Party was having a hard time putting it together and getting focused. And I really believe, to my chagrin, that Trump was gonna win, and especially because of the economy, because the numbers were good, but now he doesn't have that to stand on. And unless something happens and in the next 5 to 6 months it all turns around, he's going to have a real problem, because he's not going to be able to point to the economy. And he just in his news conference 30 minutes ago, he said, I built up the greatest economy in the history of the world, which I think the Romans would probably argue with.
Right.
But they, he can't lean on that anymore. So there's definitely going to be an impact, and I think he's going to feel the worst for it.
The Romans just put out a press release challenging.
Well, I'm going to end on that. I like for the at least politicians to get the last laugh. I want to thank all of you for participating in this. We did have a little glitch. I am going to post this, and I'll send John. I will send Debbie a handwritten note confirming that it was actually you on the show.
I need a permission slip.
I will definitely sign that, and I'm going to fix some of the glitches here, and I'm going to fix that glitch where you can hear me speak, because I know some of you were much more enjoying it much more when you could not hear me. But I want to thank all of you. Anybody want to plug anything? Any video? I mean, there's been actually some stand-up shows that, like, there's a comedy club called the Nowhere Comedy Club, in which comedians have been appearing in their own home. Brett Druck did one about 2 weeks ago. Very funny. He actually had a brick background. He went into his basement. He had a brick wall in the background, and they did it on Zoom, so you could see all the people on the screen, and everybody was unmuted, and you could hear the laughter, which is so important for comedians to actually see the faces, hear the laughter. Someday in my career, I will be able to hear the laughter of an audience, which I'm going to continue to work on that to actually be funny.
I don't think you have that much time left, Joe.
I want to plug Andrew Zwicker did a stand-up routine. And I hope that there's a video of it. Somerset County chairwoman, Peg
that's right.
right. The funniest politician, and Andrew was really, really good. I mean, for the three of you, I just would be. If this politics thing doesn't work out for Andrew, I think he's going to give you guys a run for your money.
Welcome to Andrew.
What I learned is know your audience. You know this. I got up there, and this is when the Democratic primary was really hot, and I made fun of Bloomberg and Sanders. You could watch different parts of the audience just scour at me, and I was like, oh.
So for my comedian friends here, I had booked Eddie Brill to work that gig. They'd seen Eddie Brill at Caroline's. They asked for Eddie Brill. So Eddie was the performer there. And he came back. He was a little bit concerned, doing in front of a political crowd, but he said he had a great time. And he said there's one guy who was a scientist who stood up. No, I'm just kidding. He didn't give me any feedback at all. Anyway.
That learning curve of comedians, I bombed that one.
Well, I got to tell you, I have tried many times explaining plasma physics to people. I've also bombed. So we should stay put. Anyway, thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate this. I'm going to post this in the next hour or so, and you can share it. And hopefully by next time you're on or next week, I will fix the glitch with Facebook Live. But I appreciate all of you and your opinions and sense of humor, and just keep up the good work. Take care.
Yeah, thanks thank you for having me. I got 6 more podcasts to do tonight. So,
Take care.
Bye-bye.
I got to run. Take care.
Bye.